Um, where's Paul?
All right. So we are going to start our April 28th work session. And for those watching and or listening in, we have Paul Busich, our Public Works Director, John Christensen, Utilities Manager, Nick Dostey, City Engineer, Department Director of Public Works, and Amy Doherty. Sorry, this is hard to read. Everybody's titles are so long. It's Business Assets Senior Manager. Okay.
Or it's like we like to say, she's our money person.
Yes.
That's all we need to call her by.
And today's work session is about water. So thank you for being here to be super informative and educational.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for that introduction. You now just eliminated one of my slides of introduction, which I appreciate that. You are correct. Tonight is the second of 4 different work sessions that we have scheduled with the City Council. Tonight, we're going to talk about one of the features of our work, water. One of the council members or 2 of you heard me a few minutes ago mention that, in my opinion, this is one of the 2 most important features or functions that the government performs for the community. And that is providing reliable, safe, healthy water. Without healthy water, the community such as we have, or any community, really could not exist in the form that we have. The second one you'll hear about in the next session, that is the sanitary sewer system, which is once you use it, we want to take it away and take care of it properly for you. So moving on. As you mentioned, I have 3 individuals with me tonight instead of 4. John, he's in charge of our water. He's also in charge of our wastewater, so you'll get a chance to see him more at the next session, along with Ty Brown, because he's got the sewer. Nick Dostey, who was responsible for the engineering functions, as well as his second role as a city engineer, which is development review, making sure that when infrastructure is built, it meets the city standards. And then Amy Doherty, the administrative services lead, or division manager, I should say. And she is, like I said, she's the one who helps keep us straight on all of our funding and analyzes where we are in our expenditures. The last time we spoke, I mentioned to you that a lot of the work that we do is driven by the GMA, which drives each jurisdiction to have a comprehensive plan, which we're in the process of updating right now. Within the comprehensive plan, there are 10 identified required elements that you have to make sure you address. We talked about transportation, parks, and recreation the last time. Tonight, we're talking about utilities. Capital facility is kind of a broad reach, and it touches on everything we do on transportation, parks, water, sewer, streets. And then from that, we are responsible for creating system plans like our water plan, our sewer plan, our streets plan, and the park master plan. And then it really gets into the nitty gritty, which is the implementation. So you've got this great plan. It tells you all the things that you should be doing or you could be doing. How do you go about doing it? And that's where we get in the implementation. That's through the different regulations, both zoning, the engineering standards that we establish for the different aspects of our work, and most importantly, budgets and rates. We can't do anything without having an approved budget. So that's why we spend a lot of time every spring putting together our proposed ask in our budget. And that'll be coming before the council later this year's August, September timeframe. And Sue runs that for us, so I don't want to step on her toes. She's got a schedule all laid out. Tonight, we're going to give you an overview of our water system. We're going to talk about what system consists of, what assets we have, how we go about doing conditional assessment. It's a little bit different than what we do on the streets, as you'd imagine. We're going to talk about how we maintain our existing infrastructure, because if you build it and then ignore it, you're not going to get the service life out of it that you desire, and therefore you have thrown away the community and the public's dollars that they give us. And then we talk about how our community uses the water. And also we're going to talk about how we look to the future on long-range planning. What does that mean, long-range planning for a water system? We're going to get a brief look into the funding, keeping in mind that we'll be coming back at a later date to talk strictly about funding for water and sewer. And then we're also going to give you an idea of what kind of future capital improvement projects we're looking at for the next year to 2 years. We're not going to go beyond that because, frankly, anything beyond that really is just a needs assessment, and it is not actually something that is functional because we don't have funding for it. Part of that will be part of the discussion at the financial and the rates assessment. So with that, let me talk to you from a high level. What's a water system consist of? Every water system has common components. Some have more unique components that we don't have. We have a very excellent supplies of water coming into our system, so we don't have to have a lot of excessive treatment, water quality treatment for it. I will tell you that one of the factors for me is if you're living on the Mississippi River, by the time you're in the community at the lower end, the water you're drinking has gone through 11 municipal wastewater treatment plants. Okay, so when people complain about reuse water, I just remind them that some parts of the country don't have the benefit of having fresh, clean water from groundwater and from river sources like the Pacific Northwest does. So the types of assets that are pretty common, we have wells, we have reservoirs to hold the water, we have pipes for distributing, and we have pumps to get things to the right elevations. We have a SCADA system, which is going to be explained in a minute. And then recently, you'll hear more about, but recently we converted our entire meters to an automated system that allows us to have a considerable amount of savings in staff time, financials, and some other great values from it. Just like any other system, we are required to maintain certain standards at a state and national level. Because it is water, because water is so important. Water is life. Water is coffee. Water is wine. Water is beer. Water is soda. Water is everything we need. There's a high degree of rigor that's applied to any water supply system. We are a Class A system, which is the top tier, and we do a significant amount of work using highly educated and trained individuals to own, operate, maintain, and run our systems.
Thank you, Paul. So as Paul alluded to, our water system is made up of a very complex system of pumps and computers and controls. And the goal here is just to get all of you acquainted with it and give you kind of a high level understanding to help you moving forward in your decisions with the system. So going straight to the ground, we have 3 well sites across the city. The city of Sequim operates 2 groundwater well sites and 1 rainy well site. We have 7 traditional groundwater wells spread across these 2 sites, varying between the 1st and 3rd aquifer. The rainy well is kind of unique in that it's an exfiltration well located next to the Indigenous River. It basically collects water from a series of perforated pipes under the ground and transports it to our reservoirs under gravity. Water is moved from those traditional well sites by a series of pumps and booster stations that pump it to the reservoirs at the top of each one of our pressure zones. We have 3 reservoirs in total. Combined, they hold around 3 million gallons of freshwater storage. Having our reservoirs at the higher elevations, it allows us to create 6 pressure zones across the city that allow us to supply all the citizens with proper pressure and flow that meets all of our state regulations. In order to supply citizens at the top of a zone with that proper pressure and flow, the pressures lower in the system would be way too high. You'd see, pressures in excess of the high end at 85 PSI. It would blow people's system apart. So we use pressure reducing valves to keep that from happening, keep it within that 35 to 85 PSI window. From the reservoirs, the potable water is distributed through approximately 77 miles of transmission and distribution main. These vary in size from 2 to 12 inches, and they're made up of several different kinds of materials, most notably ductile iron, PVC, asbestos concrete or AC pipe, and galvanized steel. There are approximately 2,000 isolation valves in the system. These help us isolate specific areas or sections of the system for anything from repairs to replacement or hydrant inspections, of which we have 615 hydrants. Only 4 of these 615 are out of service currently, and they are in the process of being refurbed or replaced. Our potable meters, we have around 3,100 potable meters that the water crew read and maintain. And they vary in size from 5/8 inch all the way up to 6 inches on the commercial side. So in late 2023, the city began the process of changing over to AMI, as Paul talked about, or advanced metering infrastructure. This system uses radio units mounted on the existing meter. So we didn't have to go in and replace every meter. We just replaced these radios. And what they do is they broadcast the signal through a network back to the utility billing office, which give readings in real time daily. This capability eliminates the need for 3 full-time water crew employees working 1 week a month each to go out and manually read all of those meters. And they walk about 60 miles combined a month, if that kind of puts it into context. This allows us to reduce cost, improve meter reading accuracy and billing accuracy, and also increase crew safety. PUD uses a similar system to ours. Although it's a different vendor, it's pretty much the same technology, and they've had good, reliable results with it. Full integration with our billing system should be done by early May. The customer portal should be integrated by early midsummer, and that's going to be neat. It'll allow each citizen or customer of the utility to have their own portal to access to look at usage, leaks, any kind of data you could glean from that. It'll also allow us to capture potential leaks or service interruptions in real time, so we can set alarms. A lot of you know that a lot of our residents are seasonal. They leave for a month, 2 months, 6 months out of the year, and a lot of times they'll have a leak occur at their home while they're not there, and it'll go on unnoticed for a while and causes a lot of damage. We can try to mitigate that with this system. So because we have an aging infrastructure, conditional assessments are very important, especially on the budgeting and capital side. Customers are often our first line of defense for any water system issues, such as system pressure, off odor, off color, or even line breaks, service breaks. We do rely on their help to respond faster to problems, to try and reduce damage and reduce repair costs. And the same is absolutely true for our crews. Sequim police, the sewer crew, the parks crew, they cover a lot of ground on a daily basis. And they can see things that we can't see because of that. So they're always quick to notify us of any emerging issues so we can get that taken care of immediately. So with conditional assessments, there are a couple different kinds of testing we can use, non-destructive testing. We do have significant amounts of asbestos concrete pipe in our system, and it does vary in age. It's about halfway through its service life. And it typically has a service life of up to or more than 150 years, but has been known to fail sooner. Okay. So we typically see when we expose these pipes that the pipe we do have is in good condition. But as Nick says, always trust but verify. We want to see the whole system and get a really good picture of what that condition is. One method is dye testing. It's very reliable. And what you do, you actually pull a physical coupon of the pipe out of the ground, send it off to a lab. They dye test it and tell you how structurally sound that pipe is. But the problem with that, it only gives you a small snapshot of what the condition's like in that specific area. So one emerging technology that we're looking at is acoustic testing. And what they do, a company comes out and they send sound waves through a pipe, and that sound creates pressure waves, which their proprietary math will calculate the wall thickness and condition of that pipe. And you can do it in real time across a large area, and the pipes don't have to be, the system doesn't have to be taken out of service. It can do it while it's being used. So in 23 and 24, the federal EPA mandated that we test our system for the possibility of lead pipes. This was nationwide, as I'm sure many of you know. We did have a third-party company come in, and they went through approximately 100 years of city data, council data, building data, and we also had crews go out in the field to physically put hands on that material and verify pipe type. And at the end of the day, they found that there was no instance of lead in the city system, which we're one of the very fortunate communities that can say that. So daily water quality testing is a big component of conditional assessments. Per the Department of Health regs, our operators test multiple points in the system daily. What they're doing is they're trying to ensure proper disinfection, proper pressure and flow, no taste or odor issues, things of that nature. We also carry out additional testing mandated by the Department of Health and the EPA. to look for any other constituents of concern. And these are typically tests that water systems nationwide carry out. And we do that monthly, quarterly, and annually. So to maintain our water system, we have 6 full-time water distribution managers. That includes myself. I'm the 6th man. Per state regulations, our crew members, because of our water system size and type, must maintain a minimum WDM2 or Water Distribution Manager 2 license from Department of Health to operate and maintain the system. The crew are also required to have a Department of Health cross-connection control specialist license. This teaches them to recognize and mitigate any kind of cross-contamination, backflow hazards in the system to keep the water safe. That backflow program is spearheaded by the water distribution lead. He's a licensed cross-connection control manager. And what he does is, most of you that own homes know, you have a backflow device in your meter you have to test annually. And there's a cost associated with that. Well, he ensures that the homeowners and the businesses do that testing. And it is reported to the state. And he also assists the state of Washington with any compliance issues. So as I talked about previously, we have around 2,000 isolation valves and 615 hydrants in the system. All of these require regular operation and maintenance to keep them in working order. We use the valve exercising trailer, which you can see down there on the bottom slide there. And you can see Moses and Michael down in a valve pit, operating and clearing that out and making sure that valve's in good shape. That trailer tracks a lot of data. Tracks location, it tracks torque, all that stuff. And what we do with that data is we put it in our asset management software, and we input all that and record and analyze the age, location, functionality, repair costs, what have you. And we calculate an expected service life so we can budget for any issues that may be coming down the road. This software kind of helps us stay on top of these programs and allows us to reduce or prevent any kind of service interruptions, expensive emergency repairs, or in the case of hydrants, and this is a real issue, the potential loss of life and property, which we do not want. And these 2 programs are kind of precursors to the hydrant flushing program that we have waiting in the wings. We need to make sure our system is functioning, working properly, which we believe it is. We just want to ensure that that is the case before we can kind of implement that full scale. So, and as I kind of talked about before, the water quality testing, that is another important aspect of additional assessments, just on the pipe side this time, not necessarily with the water quality. But there are a lot of indicators of condition based on the samples you take. So SCADA, this is a neat one. SCADA is a network of computers, logic, sensors, and controls that are used to monitor a water system. They can control pumps, they can control motors, they can control valves. The operators can see what's happening on the screen in real time at any point in the system. Data acquisition, as the last part of that states, is a very important tool on multiple levels. And in terms of water quality, data is your friend. You can never have too much data. And this will allow you to record and predict run times, pressures, temperatures, chlorine residual, what have you. You can view all these conditions remotely. So it helps you increase operator awareness. You can fine tune your system, refine chemical dosing. It costs less to treat the same amount of water, costs less to pump potentially. You can be notified of issues much sooner than you can just traditionally relying on the customer or the city crew. And you can react a lot better to those situations should they occur. So SCADA will be introduced with our new deep well pump facility. And we plan on strategically introducing SCADA to the rest of the water system strategically as the years pass.
Thank you, John. Apologize for my raspiness. The Easter Bunny, I guess, decided to drop off more than eggs this holiday, so we'll get through this. So by the numbers, what do we mean by that? What do we as a city produce when it comes to water? But more importantly, what do we consume? So the average daily production for the city is just over 1 million gallons. Per day. And so that equates to about 372 million gallons per year. You can see there in 2013 to 2021, which is the span our water system plan was analyzed for, we increased from 340 million gallons per year to 372 million gallons per year, which is about a 9.2% increase in production. I'd like to point out a little figure here. In that same span between 2013 and 2021, recorded family units, so single family residences, multifamily residences, had an increase of about 30% in that same window. So what does that mean? That growth percentage and production percentage are not linear. They're not one for one. In fact, as the numbers show it, for every 1% of growth that the city experiences, that's about 0.3% of water consumption. So, and I guess to put in another way, the two lines do not have the same slope. Growth can be very steep, but that does not translate into a steep production of water. Furthermore, based on our annual production and consumption, it is estimated that a single family residence, or ERU in this case, will consume 146 gallons per day per ERU, or 35 gallon buckets, right, per day. Now that's not individually based, that is averaged across the whole city. But as a comparable, right, City of Port Angeles in 2018, their gallons per day per ERU was 158. The Evergreen water system, which is a PUD water system that is adjacent to and actually overlays city limits and city UGA, their average gallon per day per ERU was 208. And that's a very recent one after talking with Bo and Kendrick over there at PUD. And then City of Port Townsend in 2016, their average consumption was 122 gallons per day per ERU. So there's quite a bit of range. You can see we're kind of in the middle, not too high, not too low. So we're in a pretty good spot. Single and multifamily homes consumed about 212 million gallons in 2021, which is approximately 580,000 gallons per day of residential consumption. As a comparison, an Olympic-sized pool is 660,000 gallons. So 80,000 gallons less than an Olympic-sized pool is what the city consumes as far as single-family residents and multifamily homes per day. Distribution system leakage, which is a good indicator of system health, being able to transport water where it needs to go. The national standard for a 3-year rolling average is 10%. We are less than that. And in fact, the last numbers we submitted to the state for review and approval had our annual distribution system leakage at about 6%, meaning that about 6% of the water we produce is leaked through pipes, bad joints, cracks, things like that, that we look to eliminate through things like what John was talking about, condition assessments through the coupons, acoustic testing, hydrant testing, things like that. A good point when we talk about our planning documents, which I will dive into here in the next few slides, is growth projection. Our water system plan was updated in 2022, and based on a projection of population in 2025, the consultant that put together our plan projected just under 9,500 people in the city of Sequim for 2025. The most recent information I could find puts us at around 82 or 8,400. So you can see that while we do plan for growth, sometimes that plan doesn't come to fruition, right? What that also tells me is that we have room to grow based on what was projected in growth, which means the projected production and consumption. So, long-range planning. What do we have and what do we need? Where are we going? The guiding document we use to maintain and expand our water system is our water system plan. This is a state-mandated document that requires review and update every 6 to 10 years, depending on size, water quality, growth, both historic and recent. And this document projects operation and maintenance, growth, expansion in a 10 and 20-year projection. The consultants put together a capital facilities plan that they believe would adequately serve the projected growth over that 10 and 20-year projection. And we take that capital facilities plan and taking in consideration our condition assessments done by John and his crew, and our specific asset management for appurtenances like booster stations, chlorination, building life, things like that. And we place that into our capital improvement program. So we take a 10 and 20-year projection and fit it into our 6-year spending plan and incorporate that budget-wise, which Amy does a great job of doing with all our streets projects, sewer projects, stormwater projects. We also align it with our development that comes in. We work with DCD to make sure that we're doing the proper projects where they're needed, as in water main upsizing or replacement when it comes to frontage improvements or internal improvements. So this document is very important and shows the state, but more importantly, the federal government, that we have a plan for our system and that we implement that plan throughout the 6-year CIP. Some projects that are called out in this water system plan that we've incorporated into our CIP is the deep well up at Silberhorn, but also the plan calls out an additional source to be investigated in the 20-year horizon. The West Sequim Bay expansion, getting water service to the east side of the city, is identified as a 20-year projection that the city is looking to implement sooner than the capital facilities plan and the water system plan detailed. That's in order to promote growth, to provide city water to city citizens that are currently either on their own well or on a private system, much like the resort or the marina. And then finally, we have our Reservoir Road Booster Station. Amy will touch on this, but we got a grant recently from the Opportunity Fund, $555,000, the first time we've received money from this grant source for a design. This reservoir booster station will service the area indicated on the top right photo there, which is about 2,400 ERUs, and construction is about $4 million. Again, this project was called out, was estimated, was planned in our water system plan and incorporated into our capital improvement plan. And finally, a project that is long on the horizon, extends past our 20-year window, is a new reservoir, anywhere from 0.8 to 1.25 million, that we are currently looking at locating as far as potential purchase of land or utilizing existing property that the city has, and vetting the size. So all 4 of these projects, all 4 of these planning scenarios are possible and funding is achievable because they are detailed out in our water system plan.
All of the work that engineering maintenance has mentioned is funded through 3 primary sources: our utility rates for water, meter installation fees, and our general facilities charges, or GFCs. The utility rates are monthly fees for water usage, and they are relatively consistent. Meter installs are a pretty small portion of this mix, and GFCs are a one-time fee charged to hook up to our entire water system. and it really varies based on development. Additional sources that are less common include fund loans, grants, and developer-funded projects. For 2025, the monthly utility rates are budgeted to cover $2.9 million of the $3 million operating costs. So these are the items that John spoke about earlier. This is consistent with how we've operated in the past. So year after year, that's pretty consistent. The funds supporting capital projects in 2005 are not consistent with our historic trend, however. Historically, projects are funded by GFCs and utility rates. So what's not used in the operations section for utility fees transfers over to the capital section. That's historically. This year, however, we are funded mostly by outside sources. So we have a $2 million loan, which is supporting the deep well. We have the $555,000 grant from the Opportunity Fund. We have a developer contribution, which is $1.2 million, which is the water expansion over on West Sequim Bay. And then we have some sewer contributions that are put toward the project for the AMI. The projects that are underway this year include, as I mentioned, the deep well, West Sequim Bay expansion, the reservoir design, and then the AMI project. So you can see them at $4.125 million is our budget. The well won't finish until next year, which we've got about $1.6 million left to complete that. And then basically we're doing small projects until we start the SCADA project in 28 and 29. It'll be about a 2-year show to finish that out. As you can see on the lower right-hand portion of the slide, our unfunded projects for water that Nick referenced in the planning documents equate to about $63 million. So 16.6 million of those are for repair and replacement, and 18 construction projects that equal about 46.6 million. So the funds that we currently have for the Public Works Board, the loan for the deep well is $4.83 million. We have 20 years to pay it back. It is a favorable interest rate. However, we do have to pay these funds back. Our preferred funding is grants. So Opportunity Fund did grant us $555,000 for the design of the Reservoir Road water main and booster station. We will need to fund the construction, which is about a $4 million project, and we are currently seeking outside funds to do so.
So I would also like to call out on Amy's wonderful figure there, the giant yellow bar in the 26 slot, accounting for over half of the project funding for 2025. That is majority, I would say all, can be attributed to Megan Euchre, our resource analysis, and her stellar applications she's been putting in. That's a phenomenal thing to see, that bar being so large. So I just wanted to make sure that she was given her due publicly on that effort. I'm very impressed with that. So going back to the normal slide here, for 26 and 27, these projects, 2 of these projects we've mentioned prior, and one you might not have seen before. Silverhorn Deep Well will be commencing phase 2 this year. That will build our new control building and chlorination station at the well field, and we'll connect all the wells to the new facility and connect a new 18-inch main to the existing water system. So we expect that to be complete in 26. And again, that is fully funded through a low interest loan. The Reservoir Road water main and booster station, that will be kicked off through the Opportunity grant that we received. It was originally slated for design in 26 starting. Since we got those funds early, thanks to Megan's hard work, we will be going out for request for qualifications for that this year to start design this year and be pursuing construction funding. So we're about 6 to 8 months ahead of schedule on that. So we're excited to get that started. And one project we wanted to bring attention to, again, it's more on the long range planning aspect of the water system plan, and our CIP is a mobile emergency water purification system. It's currently scheduled for 27. You could call it a placeholder because it is hopefully grant funded. But that is in order for the city to set ourselves up with a mobile water treatment facility. Under a worst case scenario, say our treatment facilities or distribution facilities are offline, we would be able to mobilize this unit, be able to provide safe treated water in different areas of the city, whether they're collection points or delivery. And so we're going to be vetting this project in the next 8 to 12 months to figure out where the money can come from, what kind of equipment we're looking for, and how it would be deployed. And so I just wanted to give another example of the long-range planning that goes into our water system plan and developing our CIP.
So we started off this conversation by me stating that, in my opinion, water is primary, sewer is secondary to the most valuable functions that we provide to our community. We've gone through all the items that we told you we were going to talk about, and I think that I would hope that after hearing this conversation, you understand more about what we do on the water side, how important the business is that we undertake on behalf of the community. The complexity of the systems, the technical expertise of the staff who have to run and operate it, and most importantly, how important it is that we fund the system to the point where we don't have any catastrophes, any emergencies. As Amy said, grants are a preferred way to operate. Unlike on streets, though, there aren't a whole bunch of grants available on water and sewer. The expectation is the utility has the rates established so they can fund that work which is necessary. What concerns me when I'm looking at this is that we have at least $16 million of work that we need to do that's not expansion of the city that is currently not funded. Taking out a 20-year loan on the water side that bites into our capacity to do additional capital work and delays things. It's always concerning to me when we have our hands tied a little bit when there are basic functions that we need to be doing. The city has invested a tremendous amount into the water system and a whole bunch of new upgrades. We've got crews working equipment that is functional. We are looking at ways we can improve our system. We're making sure that everybody gets trained and that they are, shall I say, content in working for us, because bringing someone new in is a very expensive venture. So I'd rather keep people here than have them go to another organization because there's something that they think they're getting on the other side. The grass is always greener until you realize what it's fertilized with, in which case you should have stayed where you were. And this is a great organization. We support everybody, and we have a great crew who do the work for us. With that, I'm going to just pause and say we're open to any questions you may have on the water system. Yes, Harmony.
Does the testing for the city of Sequim's water, is that done by a staff member?
Yeah, there are tests that staff members do run on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, but a lot of our EPA and DOH testing is done by a third-party contract lab that's accredited for those parameters. Yeah.
I had a question about that Ranny collector. Is that how you say it? Is that drawing off the Dungeness River then? And is it subject to curtailment if stream flow drops?
It is not as much as you'd think, but yes, it is. And we also see turbidity issues, which all rainy wells do, depending on their location. And Port Angeles, they're fairly uncommon here, but Port Angeles does have a similar rainy well that they have in operation that's similar to ours.
I just want to make sure it's clear that the rainy well is not a direct surface water discharge. It's actually buried underneath the river, like 30 feet down. So that's where it truly is groundwater flow, but we're getting it closer to the source, which is the river, which is infiltrating into the ground as it migrates through.
I would also like to reinforce what John and Paul said by saying that we actually do frequently need to turn off that source because of turbidity concerns. And there is little to no impact on being able to supply the city with consistent water. So we're, not to be too braggadocious, but when you see drought notices for surface water sources, much like Port Angeles, they're very dependent on their source. Should that impact our rainy well, we could completely shut it off and still operate as normal with the groundwater sources that we have.
So I'm sorry, I just looked up the definition of turbidity to make sure I understood what that was meaning. So if the water, it says it's a cloudiness or haziness of a fluid. So when the river, you have to turn it off because the groundwater gets cloudy or hazy.
If I may, think of it this way. This is non-hazy, non-turbid water. Your coffee in the morning when you add creamer to it is turbid water. There's a distinct difference in the look, and there's gradations on the turbidity on that. What happens is when the river is really on a boil, when the big floods come through or something's happening upstream, that it can actually cause not just the water in the river, but also migrates down and causes influence on the groundwater that's flowing underneath it, and it starts to churn up a little bit too. That system is a gravity-fed system, so it's got the perforated pipes. Normally, the surrounding soils prevent a lot of turbidity from coming in, but when that gets turbid, it enters into the system and it runs towards one of our reservoirs that's got sensors on it and shuts it off. Does that help? Okay.
What's the general discussion now with climate change and water shortages and globally, or at least regionally? What does that look like for us here in Sequim? How does that translate into our sources and our distribution network?
Well, it's a very good question. There's actually a very active group out here on the peninsula of individuals, both professionals, retired professionals, agency professionals, talking about the climate change and the impacts, monitoring the groundwater level in various wells. It's not an easy answer other than to say that we pay attention to it carefully. We feel that since our sources of water are groundwater, that we're not going to be hit as hard in the future from climate change as those who are taking water off of the surface, the rivers themselves. Climate change is going to change the way that water gets distributed seasonally to the Pacific Northwest. What I've seen is we'll have higher levels of the snowpack. By higher, I mean that because of global warming, the snowpack is going to be at a higher level, which means that you have less snowpack, which is basically from a water supply sense, that's your piggy bank for the summertime. And so if you have less of that and you're having more of that come through in the wintertime down the rivers and streams, you have less storage. So then you got to start thinking about where your water supply is going to come from. Some places are looking at building bigger reservoirs. Some people are now looking at how deep do they have to go to get to the groundwater table, which tends to be more reliable. One concern I would have, honestly, is that over the next 30 to 50 years, if you have less sticking around up in the mountains, that's less opportunity for it to drain into the different aquifers and that provide us with a source as it goes through over time. We are monitoring that. We do keep an eye on it. Right now, our water supply is pretty darn secure. We're not using as much water as we are, quote, allowed to, but we're also being very conscious of that. One of the things I wanted to point out when Nick was talking about the water used annually went from 340 to 372. Thanks, Nick. That seems like, well, you've got a 9% production, but you had a 30% theoretically growth. One of the things that happened in that same time frame, if you recall, is the plumbing codes changed. So all of a sudden, you can't go down to the Home Depot and buy a 5-gallon flush toilet. You can't buy faucets and shower heads that are not low flow. All of your appliances you put in when you're replacing appliances or when you're building a new home, all of those are water smart appliances. When I was working at the other big city across the water, which will remain nameless, we observed the same thing. We were being told that by Seattle Public Utilities, which was their and is their water purveyor, that based on their modeling and their system plan, that they were not going to have enough water to supply their partner agencies by 2028. Well, the actual 10 years down the road turned out 15 years down the road that they still had plenty of water, because even with a massive surge in growth, they were using less water than when the modeling was first done. So those energy conservation, those water conservation measures, they work very effectively. As we're monitoring this over time, we're going to need to start taking a look at that and say, do we have a bunch of older homes that haven't converted their shower heads, their faucets, and look at, like other utilities have, offering incentives. Come on in, get your free shower head, here's $15, go buy a new faucet. Those types of things are things I would think that we would be looking at in the long term. Try and find a 5-gallon toilet anymore. It ain't going to happen unless you go to like the second time around or reuse. I mean, I think they're not even allowed to sell those either, other than decorative flower pots in the front yard. So with that, I'm just saying is that we're monitoring it. It is something that we will need to pay attention to and continue to keep an eye on. Yes, Army.
I have a question about reclaimed water. Can you explain a little, or would that be a better topic for next week? Or is reclaimed water, where and when is it? Where is it being used in the city? And how much? What around Carrie Blake is everything at Carrie Blake specifically reused? Like everything?
That is an outstanding question, and I'm going to ask to defer that to the next conversation, because that is directly related to the WRF, the Water Reclamation Facility, not the wastewater treatment plant. It's a water reclamation facility, and it's something that John and his crew are very proud of, that's been put in place for quite a few years here. So I'm going to ask to hold that question if we could.
I'd just like to get a final word in before you adjourn. Couldn't be more proud, as you can imagine, with this kind of leadership, but all the way out to the frontline crews. These folks take this very seriously. Their certifications, we pay them for that. It means a lot to the city. We are really blessed with an excellent staff all the way through. And you can also see our commitment to technology and its importance as we go forward. All this data, the automation in the SCADA, that allows you to even post-incident, because it captures all that data, to go back and rerun the models to see what happened, or to to recreate things, and to be able to adjust things anywhere remotely and to have all that data at your hand. So the fact that this team has been so busy moving toward automated. I mean, the whole cartograph, where are all of these pipes that thousands of miles of pipes and the valves, and knowing where all that stuff is where we're going as a city. So it's a chase to be as sophisticated as we can, and my hats off to the leaders that are budgeting for this and the skills that allow the city to be managed at the level it is. So I just wanted to kind of put a plug in for our wonderful public works and certainly our water team. So thanks.
Any final questions? All right. I want to thank you guys so much for your time tonight, and we will see everybody at 6 o'clock. Alrighty, it is 6 p.m. for our April 28th regular meeting, and I'm calling it to order. And if everybody would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. City Clerk, if you could do roll call, please.
Counselor Kelly Berger.
Here.
Counselor Dan Butler.
Here.
Counselor Vicky Lowe is absent this evening. Deputy Mayor Rachel Anderson.
Present.
Mayor Brandon Janice is absent this evening. Counselor Harmony Rudder.
Here.
And Counselor Nicole Hartman.
Here.
Counselor Vicky Lowe and Mayor Brandon Janice are absent due to travel. Can I get a motion to have them excused, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion pass.
Oh, wait, should we vote on that? Is there anyone that...
5-0.
Okay. Alrighty. On to the approval of the final agenda. Does anybody have any requests for changes or additions? Not seeing any?
Move to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
All right. Any opposed? Alrighty. And on to ceremonial. So we have 4 proclamations today. So if I need to take a moment to drink some water, please excuse me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd be happy to read one if you'd like to pass one on.
You want to read one? Sorry, we probably should have figured this out before we started the meeting. Which one do you want?
The migratory bird one?
Okay. Yep. Cool. Anybody else? Yeah, I was going to say I can start volunteering people. Anybody else? Nobody? Okay. I will start with the Arbor Day Proclamation. And we had a fabulous Arbor Day celebration on Friday, and we got to plant a bunch of trees with some of the high schoolers, and everybody had a fabulous time. All right. The Tree City Arbor Day Proclamation. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable source, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Rachel Anderson, Deputy Mayor of the City of Sequim, do hereby recognize April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the City of Sequim and urge all citizens to commemorate Arbor Day and support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And I further urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. And I signed this on the 28th day of April 2025. Deputy Mayor Rachel Anderson. And Bike Month? We are not presenting this one, no.
Right. Proclamation regarding National Bike Month. Whereas the city of Sequim envisions a city where people of all ages and abilities have the option of bicycling safely and conveniently, and has adopted plans and policies that will achieve this aspiration. And whereas the Olympic Discovery Trail through Sequim attracts thousands of bike riders each year, providing economic, health, transportation, tourism, and scenic benefits for locals and visitors. And whereas Sequim is designated a bicycle-friendly community at the bronze level by the American League of Bicyclists. And whereas the month of May has been designated nationally as Bike Month, including National Ride a Bike Day, National Bike to Work Week, National Bike to Work Day, and whereas the Sequim Bicycle Alliance has organized activities including a bike rodeo, trailside cheer, bike bingo, and bike decorating contest. Now, therefore, I, on behalf of Brandon Genesee, Mayor Sequim, do hereby proclaim the month of May as Bike Month in Sequim and encourage residents to roll forth enjoyment and health. Signed on the 28th day of April.
And is Chris Clark here to accept the proclamation?
Signed one, that's a good idea.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, thank you
All right.
very much.
Thank you. Great. Just wanted to say a few words on the behalf of the Sequim Bicycle Alliance and the bicycling community here in our city. It's National Bike Month, and we want to encourage everyone to get out and ride, whether it's on your own or with a friend or with a group. There's quite a few activities, as mentioned in the proclamation, coming up this month, and we just encourage everyone to get out and ride in this beautiful area we live in. Thank you.
Just a quick question, sir. Is it true that the Sequim Bicycle Alliance is going to be in the Irrigation Festival Parade as well? Okay, thank you.
All right. Next is the Missing and Murdered Indigenous People Proclamation. Whereas Indigenous people of North America have lived on these lands since time immemorial, with rich cultures, traditions, and histories that continue to shape the fabric of our communities. And whereas, despite their importance in our shared history and future, Indigenous communities continue to experience the heartbreak of loved ones who go missing or are found murdered at rates far above the national average. And whereas, studies have shown that Indigenous women face murder rates more than 10 times the national average in some regions of the United States, and homicide is the third leading cause of death among Native American and Alaska Native women ages 10 to 24. And whereas, according to the National Crime Information Center, there were over 9,500 active missing Indigenous person cases in the United States as of recent reports, with many more going unreported or misclassified due to gaps in data collection and jurisdictional challenges. And whereas Indigenous men and boys are also impacted by this crisis, along with two-spirit and gender diverse individuals whose cases often receive even less attention and support. And whereas families and communities of missing and murdered Indigenous people often face significant challenges in accessing justice, answers, and closure while carrying the emotional, spiritual, and financial burden of searching for their loved ones. And whereas May 5th has been designated across the country as Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons MMIP Awareness Day, a day to remember those who are missing, honor those who have been lost, and support the families and communities left behind. And whereas through education, awareness, and compassion, we can lift up the voices of survivors, advocate for more inclusive and accurate data collection, and foster a community that supports healing and dignity for all. Now, therefore, I, on behalf of Brandon Genesee, Mayor of City of Sequim, do hereby proclaim May 5th, 2025 as Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons Awareness Day, and I encourage all residents to take this day to learn more about the MMIP crisis, support local and tribal-led efforts for healing and justice, and stand in solidarity with Indigenous families and communities who are still searching, grieving, and hoping. Let this day serve as a reminder that every person matters, every life is valuable, and every voice deserves to be heard. Signed on this 28th day of April, 2025, on behalf of Brandon Janice, Mayor.
Rachel, that's a very sobering proclamation. I wonder if we can just take a minute to be quiet before just moving on to the next item. Does that need to be a motion, or can I just request it?
That's a great question. I move that we have a moment of silence in recognition of missing and murdered Indigenous persons.
I'll second that.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that.
And next proclamation is the World Migratory Bird Day.
Thank you. A proclamation for World Migratory Bird Day. Whereas bird migration is the seasonal movement of birds flying between breeding grounds and wintering grounds that occur each spring and fall. Over 35 million birds will fly over Clallam County during spring migration. Bird migration is a journey rife with risks. And whereas 80% of North American songbird and other species migrate at night, relying on natural clues like the moon and stars to navigate. North America has seen the demise of more than 3 billion birds since the 1970s. And whereas more than 99% of people live under a haze of light pollution that fragments the night sky. Light pollution in the form of bright lights and sky glow can confuse migrating birds, causing collision with solid objects, windows, or confusion as they circle in beams until exhausted. And whereas nighttime lights pointed toward the sky or outwards at the landscape create excessive amounts of light, migrating birds are particularly at risk on nights with low cloud ceiling and foggy weather where light reflecting on clouds is disorienting. And whereas lights off are critical between midnight and sunrise during spring and fall bird migration periods, April and May, and September, October. And now, therefore, I, on behalf of Mayor Brandon Janice for the City of Sequim, and on behalf of the Sequim City Council, do hereby proclaim May 10th, 2025, World Migratory Bird Day. I further ask on this World Migratory Bird Day and other days during the migratory period that fellow residents and businesses turn off unnecessary lights, dim or turn off unneeded interior building lights, use timers or motion sensor lights where required, and make sure exterior lights are pointed downward and shielded from reaching the sky. Together, we can help birds navigate migration safely. Signed by Deputy Mayor Rachel Anderson on behalf of Brandon Janice on this 28th day of April 2025. And do we have someone here to accept this proclamation?
I hope so. Is Joyce Volmet here? It looks like she is. There you go.
I'd be delighted. Thank you, Joyce.
I just wanted to say a few words on behalf of the Olympic Peninsula Audubon Society. We thank you for helping us spread this word, for helping spread the word about bird migration to the rest of the population. Birds are an important part of our, when birds migrate, they migrate for a reason, and that reason is to breed. And without that breeding, birds cannot populate. It's important that to reduce the decline of birds, that they do not, that they're able to populate. So we thank you for this opportunity to celebrate World Migration Bird Day.
All right. Thank you, Joyce. And we will move on to public comment. This is a limited public forum. Individuals providing public comment must not disrupt or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of the meeting. This is not a forum for hate speech. The City of Sequim supports the public's First Amendment right to free speech, but it does not support hate speech. Speakers are expected to be courteous and refrain from making hateful comments, sounds, or remarks. Any offensive words or and conduct shared by the public do not reflect the city's values. The City of Sequim stands firm in its commitment to being an inclusive community and rejects discrimination of any kind.
For individuals attending in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. I will collect the public comment sign-in sheet shortly. If you wish to comment and haven't signed up yet, please do so now. No one has registered for remote public comment for this evening. In-person comments, each person will have 3 minutes to speak on any topic, and there will be a timer visible on the screen. A total of 30 minutes or 10 speakers will be permitted for public comment. Please state your name if you are representing an organization and your city of residence. And our first in-person comment is Vicki Maples and the Sequim Irrigation Festival royalty.
Good evening, council members. I'm Queen Lily Chemslin, and I'm here with Princess Roxy Woods, Princess Joanna Morales, and Prince Malachi Byrne. We are honored to serve as royalty court for the 130th Irrigation Festival, the longest continuing festival in Washington state. Preparations for the 130th festival actually began in the early 2024 year, with the selection of the theme for 2025, where history flows and futures grow. Our scholarship pageant was held February this year, followed by the annual kickoff dinner, an auction, and float unveiling in March. Since then, our volunteer board and committee members have been making preparations for the upcoming Crazy Callan weekend and grand finale weekend. Our Royal Court float and float support team have already participated in the Tacoma Daffodil Festival and brought home the President's Award. I'm here tonight to thank the council and the city staff for your support for our festival, and to invite you and the community of Sequim to join us in our celebration. Crazy Callan Weekend kicks off the festival on May 3rd and 4th at Carrie Blake Park. The ribbon cutting for the festival will be at 12:15 on Saturday at the James Center Band Shell. There will be arts and crafts vendors, family fun days with a variety of games and activities for youth. The ever-popular Kids Parade, a food court for everyone, all-day, all-weekend entertainment, a trash and show, a community center, concert and dance, and a crazy day breakfast. Excuse me. The Grand Parade car show and 1 mile/5K run series takes place on May 10th. I have our 130th festival brochure here for everyone, which includes all events, including a number of affiliate activities over the course of the 2 weekends. Thank you again for all your support. We hope you enjoy our festival. And Roxy Woods and Malachi Byrne are going to give the City Council members a thank you note for all their support, and pins from the Irrigation Festival this year has a wonderful logo.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just wanted to give a quick thank you to the royalty. Thank you for your service to our community. I think it's such a fabulous opportunity for youth to get involved. And to Lori and Vicky and all of the other volunteers that spend countless hours every single year putting on this festival, thank you so much.
And Dave Beckavar.
Oh, good evening. And yeah, my name is Dave Beckavar. I'm here representing our Sequim Log Show. Have been for 37 years this year. And my wife and Shelly and I, anyhow, we're here supporting the fireworks deal that's come up here recently. We've had that going on for quite a few years. And anyhow, I just hope that you folks will allow us to keep doing that what we've been doing out of the kindness of our hearts for all the folks in the community, and as well as the city of Sequim when they have their show. And we'll try to support you good people on that one, and whatever I can do to help, I'd like to do that. But I missed the meeting before on that, but I did want to come and say thank you folks for that. Anybody got any questions for me? Okay. Thank you.
And that concludes public comment.
And we have no public hearing scheduled. On to our consent agenda. City Clerk, could you please read the consent agenda?
Tonight's consent agenda: claim vouchers totaling $433,991.76, and the City Council meeting minutes for April 14, 2025.
Is there a motion to approve consent agenda?
Move to approve consent agenda.
I'll second that.
And any opposed? All right. Nobody opposed. On to general business. Our Sequim Police Department 2024 annual report from Chief Mike Hill.
Start by thanking Heather for navigating for me. So there's pictures of the dog in here too. So wait till the end. I don't spoiler alert for you. So we're doing things a little bit differently this year. Typically annual reports come out towards the end of the year, and that's so we can allow time for the FBI to get all of our statistics statewide, nationwide. However, it makes almost zero sense to me to release a report about 2024 almost in 2026. So here's your sneak preview. The other part of that is a lot of what we do, perhaps most of what we do, doesn't involve crime. So this gives you a little kind of lens of through the police department and some of the other things that we deal with. I do spend a lot of time dealing with crime, clearly. We spend a lot of time on trends and statistics, but this gives you more of a behind the scenes look at what's going on. What we do plan on doing is when those uniform crime reports come out in the fall/winter is just doing a quick supplemental to this for the people that are very interested in crime rates and all those things. 2024, we call the year of firsts. It's not the first chief to retire, but she was the first domino in what occurred in 2024. So I'll start by giving Chief Sherry Crane the credit where credit is due. She was many firsts in her own capacity. The first female police officer
detective, sergeant, lieutenant, deputy chief, and chief. After 33 years, she honorably retired. You'll probably be seeing more of her as the police department is in charge of emergency management, and she is going to assist us as an emergency management coordinator. So she'll be welcomed back part-time, so she still gets to enjoy retirement. But Sherry being the first domino that set into effect is we had open positions. As anybody's aware, it's hard to find qualified people in any line of work. So in 2024, we created a recruitment task force made up of some officers and our HR department to go out and seek out people rather than waiting for them to come to us. And so 2024 was, I think, the first time ever we've hired 4 people in the same year, which set another domino in effect. In 2024 was also the first time we've promoted 5 people in the department in a year. 3 patrol sergeants, a deputy chief who's sitting over there against the wall, and I took over for Sherry. Notable events. The most notable thing about this slide is it's a reverse and everything's backwards in it. I will say that this is just a overview of our annual report. The full annual report is available online, much larger, although I'm still going to take about another 10 minutes of your time. But we're going to go over the notable events, community engagement, substantial cases, and then the community survey that Barb had done. First of all is our community engagement, events, and outreach. I had a feeling that our Chief Justin Grider might be in the audience today. So there are police and fire getting along hand in hand at the bottom and the middle. And also on the far right, that's me throwing out the first pitch. I believe you got to throw out the second pitch. So just wanted to take that shot while I could. But that's just, but it does say Grinch apprehension on there. The fire department did a very well produced Christmas YouTube video. The link's on our annual report of basically the Grinch robbing the fire department and us coming to save your day. So you're welcome, but also thank you for producing. That's a funny video if you want to go take a look at that. But those just some examples of a lot of the things we've done in the community. I think if you take everything into account, it's roughly about 30 events that we did just outside of our typical police work. Some substantial cases. So my philosophy when it comes to policing isn't necessarily sharing like some other departments do. I don't think it's the greatest thing in the world just to highlight all the horrible things that happen in the community. Some are substantial, and we do, but also we take a more trauma-informed approach to this. And you got to realize some of these are people being victims of pretty serious crime. And if we continue to broadcast it, we just re-victimize people over and over again. So sexual assault does occur in Sequim. We don't advertise it, but there are a couple substantial cases. One was a person, because he's not a gentleman, committed a sexual assault on a young woman and knew he did wrong and immediately fled, tried to throw us off his case multiple times, attempting to leave the country. And we had detectives that did some of the most diligent work that I've ever seen. And it took several weeks, but early one morning in New York City, he awoke to a knock on his door, and we had sent the Marshal Service there. And they arrested him. We flew to Rikers Island, where we picked him up, brought him back here, brought him to our courthouse, and then he pled guilty because they did a rock-solid case. We had a resolution to attempted murder we had in 2022, where another person attempted to kill his neighbor. He was just sentenced to 20 years. The police department was credited by the prosecutor's office as some very good, diligent work. He was actually sentenced above the recommendation because the judge took offense to what he did. We had another sex offense where a person committed several crimes here. We also learned that he'd committed several crimes in Texas, more so in Texas. So they called dibs. They came and got him, took him to Texas, convicted him, threw him in prison, but we weren't about to let him off the hook. So we flew to Texas, picked him up from prison, brought him back here. He pled guilty and got 12 years in prison. Then we sent him back to Texas. So when he gets done with Texas, he gets to come serve his time here too. We had a pretty substantial case that trickled in. We didn't really understand how substantial it was until we started looking big picture, and there was a person
purchasing gold, and then allegedly, because this case has not been adjudicated yet, welcome Christina, wrote bad checks to pay for it. All in all, we ended up with about 20 different victims and around $100,000 to $120,000 in lost funds. So we did some search warrants on him, arrested him. He went to jail, and that case is still pending. And then another one is we had a local business broken into. The person stole tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, fled the city. This happened in the middle of the night, went up north. Alert patrol officer saw something odd, called us and said, "Do you have anything stolen from this business?" We looked, and sure enough, our graveyard officer went there, started working this case. He was so well liked in that northern city that they said, "We would be glad to deliver him back to you because we don't want him here." So they delivered him back to us, and we just decided you can not stay in society and just go to prison for 51 months instead. So another good resolution for that. But something moving on from crimes, now that I get past most of the bad news, as you're aware, there's a community survey. Barb's talked to it. The police received some rather high marks in that, different than the business survey, which the police received some rather high marks in that one too. But basically what it boiled down to is our community said, "We like our police, we want to see more of you, and we're happy to oblige." So some of the things that they asked for was, we would like to see more traffic stops done. And the last half of 2024, we increased that by about 10%. So all in all, 2024, we did about 1,200 traffic stops in the city of Sequim, which is on par or more than a lot of our neighboring or similar sized agencies. And we're already on track to eclipse that in 2025. The other thing they asked for is more presence downtown. So it's not uncommon anymore to see Deputy Chief Southern and I decide to take a stroll. We call them our walking meetings because we sit down enough. So we use that opportunity to walk around downtown, engage our community. And I got to tell you, we deal with a lot of bad stuff. So these downtown foot patrols have really kind of reinvigorated my dedication to the city, because the number, like, I think I have tendonitis now. The number of people that wave at us using all their fingers is tremendous. The drive-by shoutings we get, but they're words of encouragement and thank yous. The number of hands we shake is something else. And I don't know how many selfies we've been in, but people decide that's a thing. So community asked for that, and we did it. The other thing they asked for is code violations, and we've responded to that by taking a much more proactive patrol of seeking out these nuisances than waiting for people to call them in. A brief summary of the year is we knew we were going to be short. We took some steps to make sure that that didn't occur by hiring that number of people. However, we were still pretty short due to we had some long-term injuries to some officers. And for those of you that haven't heard me say this already, from the day we offer somebody a job to the day they're driving a patrol car by themselves is about 1 year. That's because you have to go through 2 to 3 months of a background check, polygraph, all that pre-hire stuff, 5 months in a police academy. When you get out of the police academy, there's post-academy training that you'll ride with one of our trained officers for about 3 months before you go solo. So during that time, while we have 2 people in a car, we can still be short on shift. So credit to our officers who, despite being short for a couple years in a row now, still made a very significant impact on crime, which you'll see in a little bit. I'll also report that for the first time since I can remember, we're fully staffed. We actually have people on a waiting list that want to work for us. The problem is a lot of that staff is attending academies right now or about to go to. So while we're fully staffed, that doesn't mean everybody's necessarily on the road. But hey, more about us. We received our WASPIC accreditation. So for those of you that aren't familiar, WASPIC is the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs. They're our state police organization. They have an accreditation process that is about 140 best practice standards that you have to not just say you do, you have to prove that you're meeting all those standards every year, provide them proof of it. And we've been doing that since 2016. There's about 280 law enforcement agencies in Washington state. Only about 25% are accredited agencies. So nothing to those that aren't. There's lots of barriers that can't if you don't have a great facility, things like that. So we're fortunate to work in this building and have a good staff. Some of the other things is a lot of what police do are talk with people on their worst day, at the worst moment, and that can wear on somebody. So we make sure we give some recognition and give credit where credit is due. You've seen the life-saving awards. You've seen Rachel presenting them in the pictures right there. So that's another first. I don't think we've ever given out 5 life-saving awards in a year, but we also recognize people in these other ways through their good work. I'm going to try to explain this. Sometimes I hit the mark, sometimes I leave people more confused. So this is to give you an idea of our workload. So everything that we do, you get an incident, and it starts at 1 and it goes till the end of the year. Now, an incident can be if I do a traffic stop, it gets an incident. While I'm doing a traffic stop, John gets dispatched to a theft, there's a second incident. While he's at that theft and I'm on a traffic stop, somebody goes to a suspicious person call, that's an incident. So everything we do gets tallied. So as you can see, we average between 11 and 12,000 incidents a year, which if you think 365 days and you're open 24/7, that's a lot of incidents. Only a portion of those incidents become a case. So like I say, a traffic stop, that's going to be over and done. I'm not going to write a paper. I don't have an investigation to do. The suspicious person might have been a kid in the backyard yelling and screaming with his friends having a good time. However, the shoplift is going to cause me some investigation. So the shoplift becomes a case. Things that we document, write down, investigate, those become cases. So as you can see in 2024, about 11% of our total incidents. So 1,300 became cases where people are writing police reports, routing them, et cetera.
Chief Hill, I just pulled up a calculator for 2024. That was 31 incidents per day.
That's a lot. Yeah. Way to put it in perspective. Give me a pause. It is, and I follow Chief Grider at the fire department, and he's seeing that as well. As there's just increases. The more you do, the more people that come here, the more you have staff doing. So, but thank you for the math. Not my strong suit. A little bit about what we do. Now I talk about incidents and cases. So incidents are those things that don't become cases. So the things that we deal with more are suspicious, or attempt to locate that are disturbances. So if somebody sees like some weird guy walking around their neighborhood, they call the police, we show up there, and it just happens to be the weird uncle from out of town. It doesn't create a case, but we go check that stuff out anyways. A lot of 911 hangups where people accidentally call 911, and we usually have to check that out anyway. We don't want somebody to make a report and just get ignored, even if it is false. And then if like a suspicious car parked someplace or somebody doing odd, we just get a lot of those types of calls. So those are a lot of what we do. When it comes down to cases, you'll hear more, but shoplifts increased, as you can see in that graph. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Theft second degree increased. Some things went down, but a lot of theft and property crimes. And we're very glad that when you come to Sequim and you live in Sequim, you got to worry about shoplifting and not a crime against a person. We did have a couple of anomalies or violation of no contact orders, as you can see, spiked. We did a dive into that, and we found because of 2 people, those spiked. They committed just multiple offenses. One, for an example, is if you have a no contact order, and we send you to jail because you violated it, and then you call the person that you have an order against 20 times, you get 20 new charges. Thanks for squimming. Try to be quick on this. So we talked about the report and how reports are and crime numbers that we get. A lot are reported by law enforcement agencies to the FBI, and then they kind of give you a national crime report, like what's the pulse of the nation. There's a lot of flaws in that data, like only 75% of police departments report to it. So do you get a real picture? We don't know. It does have some value. We're not using it for this report. We're using all of our local data that we track, and we track a lot of it because that gives a better idea of what we do when we do it in their day-to-day. I will say in 2022, when we came out of COVID and a bunch of weird legislation, crime peaked. It peaked across the nation, but particularly in Washington. However, since then, statewide shows there's a lot of decreases, and we're probably ahead of those trends, but we're seeing decreases as well. But one point I want to make when you think about police in 2024, Our population in Sequim was roughly 8,400 people. And, you know, we're small town, 8,400. But as Sue has told me, and she's the number person that I trust, is we have a surface population of closer to 25,000 people, despite only having 8,400 population, because we're the retail hub, we're the east end of the county. So while we may be policing 8,400 citizens, we're often policing quite a bit more than that, especially during the day. The bad news, theft went up. I already told you that. So shoplifting accounts for most of our theft, which is probably better than the fact that citizens, you know, at their homes aren't being victimized by it. So if you had to have something, at least it's shoplifting. That did trend up. The weird anomaly is we actually got fewer calls about theft. It's just that more people wanted to pursue charges. So in 2023, 250 people called about theft. Only about a quarter of them said, yeah, I want to go ahead and file charges and be a victim. Most businesses says, just tell that person they're not welcome back here. If they come back, then we'll worry about charges. 2024, fewer people called, but more of those people wanted to actually do something. So our theft numbers went up, and that's reflected. Next. The good news is that's the last bad news slide, because there was only one. As I said, crimes against persons trended down significantly. When I was up here last, we had a weird spike. We didn't know why. And the why is because it was 2022 and the world was a crazy place. Since then, it's pretty consistently trended down. You can see in 2022, 40 assault 4th degree cases, and we've halved that in 2024. So assault is trending down. Next.
And Chief Hill, GMSD, does that stand for gross misdemeanor?
It does. Good catch. So yeah, this spits out some data that the layperson may not catch. Apparently you're not that layperson. So there's various other crimes against persons. I just use assault 4th degree. I mean, you have all your degrees of assault. You have, honestly, your attempted murders, your sexual assault cases. Those are all trending similarly downward. While our theft went up, our other property cases went down. So vandalism, which we call malicious mischief, that a certain counselor pays attention to that has trended down. Motor vehicle theft, as you can see, went back down to normal. We barely get any stolen vehicles. 2022 was again the year of crime in Washington State, where motor vehicle thefts went up roughly 88%. We've kind of trended back a little more normal now. And in case you were wondering, these are the number of people we arrest and the number of charges we deal with in a year. So we arrested a few more people. The reason arrests are the blue, charges are in the orange. The reason the orange is higher is if you arrest someone for driving while intoxicated, but in the process they've run into 2 other vehicles and called hit and runs. You have 1 person, 3 arrest charges. So just for your information, that's kind of year to year the number of arrests we make. An arrest can mean we physically put you in handcuffs, search you, you go to jail. Arrest can mean we handcuff you, bring you to our department and do an administrative booking and release you, and you have a court date to show up later. Or if it's very minor, or frankly, a lot of the juvenile crimes is we leave you with your parents, we don't arrest you at all, and we say the prosecutor may be getting a hold of you, you may have to go to court later. So an arrest doesn't always mean you end up in jail, but they are charges that we're forwarding for the prosecutor's review. So numbers. Something that I didn't include in here that I will end on is some of you are very astute, and if you pay attention to local news, there was just a KONP story on the significant increase in thefts from motor vehicles, and it's the highest in the nation. That's not true in Sequim. We went from 75 roughly in 2022, the fun year, to about 15 in 2024. So honestly, if you lock your doors on your car, people just go to the next one to look for the one that's unlocked. So while it was reported and very big, not so much for us. I try not to get into the weeds too much. I'm more than happy to do that or have follow-up if you have questions, send you stuff later, but at least give you a glimpse into all the other things we do rather than just drive fast with our lights on, and include a picture of Mamba from. That's 2025. This is 2024. So you will see new canines. You'll see it before the annual report. Taryn, who is the bitee in that picture, is our new canine handler. He is actually out doing training right now. That probably goes on for about roughly another month, and then has to pass some certifications through the state. But yes, we will have a new canine. Right now, his name is Dutch. He is a Dutch Shepherd. Nope. Nothing against Mamba was a girl. She did fine. Questions? Thank you for your time. I know that took a little bit. I tried to hurry, but still be understandable.
Just real deep appreciation, Mike, to you and to the force. It's great being a citizen of this town and would join other citizens that gave high marks on the survey. Concern for you as a force and of course us as a community with regards to the federal detention, deportation efforts and ICE and so on. How is that impacting us and our little community? Is it? I shouldn't say how is it. Is it?
It could. It's not going to affect us. That's one of those questions that's difficult. Washington's made it a little easier for us because they say local police, that's illegal. You can't do that. There's a law called Keep Washington Working that expressly prohibits us from even sharing a lot of data with the federal agencies for the purpose of immigration and deportations. So we kindly get to see our way out of that. If a federal entity decides to come here and start doing that, they have their federal laws they have to follow. We do have a Border Patrol station in Port Angeles. I have not heard any such orders coming from there. But your local police have almost nothing to do with that. It's pretty hands off. It would be so deep and in the weeds and involve a lawsuit from the Attorney General of Washington before it even got to our level that I can't predict it happening. If it was, it would be a very slow process. It wouldn't be something, and we'd all see it coming and pivot as necessary. But as of right now, yeah, I don't have to think about it because it's illegal for me to do.
Any other questions? All right.
You know how to find me.
Thank you, Chief Hill. All right, we are moving on to our fireworks discussion, and Paul and Hannah are here to discuss.
Good evening again, Council. Paul Beeslich, Public Works Director. Along with me is Hannah, who is our Parks Manager. So before we get started, I want to run through a couple of little video clips that we took. The first one is a very short one. If it plays. If you look to the very bottom in the center, you'll see something. What that is a nest, and it has an eagle in it. And if you look to the left, you'll see there's a snag a little bit higher up there. That is where the old nest used to be. Now, if you also look at the top of the screen, you'll see where the Gary Oak Restoration Site is and where the water reuse demonstration site is to the north. So we can get to the second one. Oleg's playing this in the background here. First one was very quick. The second one's the fun one. Now, for anybody who's interested, we were at least 350 feet away with the zone, and it's a drone. It's very quiet. If you see Mom and Pop, they're feeding their fledgling. Very attentive parents. Beautiful birds. Incredible birds. Look at those. But there's a little surprise for us at the end. I didn't see it until I watched this a couple of times. And just while you're watching the birds, I'll tell you that our estimation is that where the current fireworks are being set off is about 1,600 feet away. Now you see it right there. What do you see? You see two little heads. So we have two fledglings in the nest. That was taken a couple of weeks ago. We have some taken from a couple of weeks before that, and it just shows one of the birds kind of covering everything in there, which we're pretty sure that they were still in the egg at that time. They had not hatched. But we gave it a couple of weeks and came back and took a look at it, and lo and behold, we have a couple of fledgling eaglets in the nest. So when we were looking at this, we recognized that there would be a long process for us to be able to prove that the eagles had acclimated to the fireworks. So we had already identified that this basically is the only place in the city of Sequim where we could do a public display of fireworks. So as we're looking at this and we're figuring out, well, where does the logging show go? Where's the city limits? And Hannah was looking at this. She said, she says, we've got this extension of the road right behind the ball fields that is city right away. And it's in real close proximity to where the logging show sets off their fireworks, we believe. And what you see here is a blue line that shows about a half a mile. And actually, looking at this is an estimation where we thought the nest was initially. We now know that it's further to the left, a little bit off the screen, so the distance is even greater than a half a mile. So when it comes right down to it, push comes to shove, we're just going to transition where the fireworks are let off. It's still on our property. It's going to be over half a mile away. We don't need any formal action by the council, except if you decide that we just don't want to do fireworks. But I would suggest that if you want to look at that, then we would look at basically not doing any professional fireworks shows. That would be a big step, and not something I'm proposing that we even think about for this year. We're just suggesting we're going to go ahead and do the fireworks further away. That negates the issue of proximity to the eagles. It negates the issue we will no longer need to water down the Gary Oaks, the plants there. So for fireworks, we will continue to use our irrigation and we'll water down the ball fields and all around it. So that will still remain an action that we'll undertake to protect anything from burning. But it seems like a pretty good solution for this year. We are going to continue to surreptitiously monitor the eagles throughout the rest of this year through the fireworks, just to see what phases they go through and what stages. We'll probably go up there about every week or couple of weeks and take a look and make sure they're still doing okay and that there's not a problem. And then we'll make sure we do a couple of flights before the 4th of July and a couple of flights after the 4th of July, just to make sure even a half mile is more than enough not to disturb them or the others that may be in proximity. Part of what we promised you was that we were also going to take a look at what other jurisdictions were doing, as well as, oh, look, there they are again. Thank you, Oleg. Then we're also going to talk about doing some public outreach. Because this is now looks like we don't need to do this real fast. It actually was a part of our plan for our parks folks to do throughout the course of the year. So I'm going to turn it over to Hannah. She's going to explain to you the number of jurisdictions we contacted, what they do or don't do, and then also our plan for public outreach.
Anna Merrill, Parks and Events Manager for Public Works. One of the things that Public Works asked us to look at, or as the divisions were asked to look at, what our work plan would be for this year. And Parks and Events had already planned out that June and July were going to be the months that we would go out into the community and do surveys about, just in general, our events, things that we're doing, activities, and finding out from our community what things that they find beloved, what things they want to keep, what things they would change. And so that would include the Sunshine Festival, that would include the 4th of July, that would include other things that the city does. This is not for things that the city does not do, which those are many things. That's the logging show, that's the irrigation festival, that's the lavender festival. We're not querying the community about that, but about our activities that are run by the city. And so Veterans Day activities, things that we are putting on. And so we want to find out, are there more things you would look forward to of the things that the city offers? Are there things that you would change? And so that would include 4th of July and asking them, specifically, how do you feel about fireworks? And that would be something we would do, but it won't happen before the fireworks happen, most likely. We won't have it turned around by then. So I wanted to just let you know, I did call 25 municipalities on the peninsula and the Puget Sound, and of the 25, 15 do have firework activities. 2 of them are on land and 13 of them are over water, and then 10 have either never had fireworks or discontinued doing fireworks. So that's just sort of a broader view of just it locally on the peninsula and all around the Sound.
Any questions for Hannah or Paul?
Not a question. I just appreciate you guys doing all the research and the cool Planet Earth footage you got of the bald eagles. And it seems like a well thought out and planned solution. Addresses a lot of the concerns that some of the public had. So thanks.
Yeah, and you might think about if you're going to go out and take their pictures every week or so, you might think about highlighting that on the website and having a little Eagle Cam going for City of Sequim. It's great.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something Fish and Wildlife allows or not, but we can ask them. Thank you.
Thank you. Harmony, yeah.
I do have just a comment, not a question or anything. Thank you, Paul and Hannah, for sharing all your hard work. Thank you for going and doing that research and finding out more information. I just want to take a moment to speak up here for the folks in the community that have shared their concerns with me. This fireworks show in the city of Sequim only started in 2021. There's lots of great fireworks shows in the surrounding community. And I think that I want to take a moment to say some comments, because I think that it's important to recognize these comments and concerns that I think still exist. Even though I agree with you, I think that this is a really great solution that moves the firework display farther away from the Scary Oaks and the Eagle Nest, and that will make it a pretty good solution for this year. But I know that there's a lot of people in the community that still have concerns about the fact that, on the whole, our climate is getting drier. We are pivoting, unfortunately, from a snow-dominant watershed to a rain-dominant watershed. The water report, as some representatives from the League of Women Voters were at our last council meeting, and they made the statement that the report that is used to talk about water is out of date and needs to be refreshed with the availability of water in our aquifers and in our water system. So I think that that's an important piece. There's just concerns about all of those pieces. And we currently are not in a state of drought, but on April 9th, the Washington State Department of Ecology issued an emergency drought declaration for the counties in the middle of our state. In their report, they found that the reservoirs in the middle of the state are at the lowest points that they have ever been in 50 years. And I believe these kinds of warning signs indicate that responsible people should prioritize water usage and recreation to be a responsible reaction to that kind of data. That if one was looking at that kind of information, doing something very flammable in the middle of summer when it's very, very dry, doesn't make a lot of, the data doesn't support, it doesn't sound on paper to me like a very smart idea. And then I also am concerned about air quality. I think that I've lived in the state of Washington my entire life. I didn't have to think about a wildfire season when I was a kid, but I have 2 young children, and I have had to navigate wildfire season with my kids on a yearly basis. And the next generation of humans on this planet deserve to have clean air to breathe. And I know that one fireworks display is not creating the haze and the smog that happens after the 4th of July. It's a cumulative effect that's happening by all of the different displays. And with canceling one little show in the city of Sequim isn't creating all of that, because it's everywhere. Everywhere all around us is going to be fireworks on the 4th of July. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to make these statements that I feel are very, very passionately about, that in our city, I don't think we need to make any changes at this time, but the change that Hannah and Paul have proposed, I think, is a win-win-win for a variety of reasons, and I'm glad that they have proposed it. So thank you again. But I wanted to take this opportunity to air those concerns. So thank you very much, Council. Thank you very much, members of the public, for allowing me this time to voice those concerns and my thoughts. And I look forward to the next time this conversation comes back. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments, Harmony. All right, we are going to move on to our reports section of our agenda. And we have Layla here. Do you have a youth liaison report for us?
For purposes of the record, this is the youth liaison, Layla Sundin speaking. Do I have a report for you? It is what I like to call Messy May. So there's a lot of things going on. The play opens this Friday. Sequim High School's spring musical this year is Oklahoma. Go see it. It's a wonderful production. Our students have worked very hard, and I think that's such a classic. It's such a Sequim High School classic. So also AP testing begins May 5th and will go until the end of May. I'm not 100% sure when the last AP test is. SBA testing for 10th graders is finished, and SBA science testing for juniors will happen sometime in May as well. I believe that happens next week. Interact held Rally in the Alley this weekend. It was very successful. We had less people than we normally do because usually the Boy Scouts come help out, and I don't know what they were doing, but they were very busy and couldn't, but everything ended up working out. May 2nd, which is this Friday, leadership is sending 5 people to Inner High, which is a program which allows schools across the peninsula to communicate and collaborate. So we're excited for that. The field, also leadership is currently holding class elections. The day of elections and speeches will be May 5th. And then also the middle school, so 9th graders are also following that timeline. The exec elections are finished, our council's elected, and we are looking to appoint a junior technician. Right now, our executive team is me as president, Lincoln Forrest as vice president, who's the other youth liaison, Caitlin Middleton Sharp as treasurer, Joey Kang as secretary, and Finn Broughton as senior technician. So, also, there's a field trip to Seattle Pacific Lutheran University and University of Washington Tacoma this Thursday. It's completely free, and the Bill Gates Foundation is funding that. Senior Assassin and Flamingos. If you get flocked, if you find a little pink flamingo in your yard, consider donating to the senior class. All the money raised through Senior Assassin, which is just basically a game seniors play, and flocking goes to their senior party, which prevents drunk driving, and it's also just a wonderful time for the seniors who have worked so hard to graduate high school. There's a Decision Day Assembly. Oh gosh, just a couple more, I promise. There's a Decision Day Assembly, April 30th. So any seniors who have committed to further their education via trade school, college, or going into the military will be celebrated this Wednesday. Choir went to state this weekend. We did very well. Our boys placed 3rd, so that was amazing. And FBLA also had a conference Thursday to Saturday. Interact will also be leading festival, the Irrigation Festival, holding flags. Spring sports are in full swing. We're doing pretty good. So that's boys and girls tennis, boys soccer, boys and girls track, baseball, and softball. And this weekend was the Railroad Bridge Run, and that the conditions were amazing for that. And I think everyone had a good time. Any questions?
Are you excited for your SBA testing?
You'll do great. It'll be great. It'll be great. That's not on my radar. It'll just happen when it happens, and I'm just totally accepting. So,
do you have any idea how many students are being honored or recognized at the assembly for Decision Day?
So, kids like to procrastinate. Currently, we have not very many people who have responded to the survey, essentially. Right now, I think there's about 50. By the time Wednesday rolls around, I predict we will have closer to 80, between 80 and 100. And then after Decision Day, of course, I think we have quite a few more who commit to further their education. So,
And what's the class size this year?
the senior class is, I believe, around 190 people. It could be around 200. It's usually about that. Smallest class in our high school. So, yeah.
Thanks, Layla.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Layla before we move on? All right. City manager report.
Thank you. It's nice to meet with you, council members, and I love the youth in the school report, so don't apologize for that. Fun to hear about. As with the school, it's a busy time of year for the city as well. All the departments are on kind of in full bloom. Speaking of full bloom, maybe I'll start by sharing how busy Public Works is. Of course, we hire seasonals to help out the Parks Department. You heard about Arbor Day already. There was an event with the Sequim Botanical Garden Society where they received a lot of plants, and our Parks Department supported that. And our Parks staff was also recognized by the Sister City group at the Chamber Luncheon. So lots going on with Parks, of course, and all Public Works. I wish Vicki was here. I know she followed and maybe some of the rest of you followed with great interest in our Public Works Department. Also, is where our Arts Commission sits, and that has over the years has just continued to get all the wrinkles ironed out there. They're really high functioning. They just held their annual strategic planning for the year, and I heard it was just a phenomenal event and just a lot of. Were you there?
I didn't attend. I wasn't able to attend the strat plan because of a council meeting at the same time. But the commission met earlier this afternoon at 3, and I was there for their meeting and actually was planning to give a little brief of what they discussed, and the excellence of the strat plan meeting was part of the discussion. So, yay.
I don't have any details other than I walked into the room afterwards and all the walls were plastered with Post-it notes and just some really happy people. They used some of what we call our grease team, which are facilitators and helping get to, great deliverables and specific objectives and whatnot. So, yeah, really, really nice to see that Sarah has worked all that out. So, and other staff. Anyway, a couple other things just of interest. So I had the May newsletter will be coming out. Hopefully, I don't have a picture in it, but somebody took a photo of us. I met with the waste management manager. You'll love this. I just have to kind of insert it. Besides them very generously donating $1,000 to the Bike Alliance for donation for decoration bike for the kids. I said, so what else do you have going on? And I was told, you'll love this, that they are the second city in the entire state to have an AI software program being installed this month in the back of all their trucks. Now get this. So anytime they dump a recycle load into the back of their truck, they have cameras there, multiple angles, that reads whether it's a clean recycle or not. So if there's still pizza on the cardboard, that's not, and it instantly captures that, and it captures what house they're in, resident they're in front of, and then sends this really friendly reminder and educational kind of email to that resident, like in real time. And I said, of course, we talk forever about that, but I thought, go Waste Connection. So yeah, really, really fun. And they have all kinds of things. So I didn't also know, well, I'm getting down a rabbit hole here, but they also do a bicycle program for the youth, and especially disadvantaged youth or whatever. So a really great program.
So does that mean you're saying that Olympic Disposal Waste Connections is installing the AI system in their trucks now?
It is installed. Yeah.
Wow.
The next month, I think May will be when people start receiving this, and a big educational fund. It's not punitive at all. They went overboard to try to make it super educational, kind of cute and helpful, and a lot of gratitude expressed, and with some gentle reminders of what clean recycling is. So, yeah. I think several of you know that we meet as an all staff, meaning all employees at once, and so we had that last week. I think Rachel showed up for the end of that, and it's always nice to see your support. You're always welcome and
I was just
invited.
there to put chairs away. That's all.
Yeah. If there's service to be done, you're there contributing. So thank you for that. Just a kind of a shout out to, again, finance and our public works departments for their collaboration on these utility meter radio readers. We're very close to having that. You heard about the savings, the amazing amount of cost savings and physical effort that this will bring. The most important, exciting part of that is the data that we will have in real time and be able to catch liabilities, catch issues. And as soon as we get that fully functional as a city to be able to set these alarms and see these data patterns, then the backside of that is software for the residents. I think he may have said that, I'm not sure. But then the residents can jump in there and put their account number in and also set their own alarms or their thresholds and have access to real-time data and get prompts to their phones and to their emails if they go above normal usage too. So really kind of a great thing, and I think it's one of many things that we're working on relative to water conservation and whatnot. So thank you for bringing that up earlier, Harmony. Anyway, HR is busy with some positions. We have 2 positions in IT that are really key. Our GIS, I have over 60 applications to be for our GIS coordinator. Jacob has decided to move on, and of course we're losing Fred, good Fred. But cheers to him for his decision to pursue what he's doing with his family. Anyway, I believe that's it. Any questions from council? I could go on, of course. Thank you. I'm available. Call anytime. Swing by. Yeah. Thank you so much. Nice to meet with you.
Thank you, City Manager. Are there any council committee reports? I know Harmony has one. I have a few updates, so absolutely go for it.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Matt. And thank you, Rachel. Let's see. So like I said, today at 3:00, the Sequim Arts Commission met. And let's see, very briefly, they finalized the lineup of bands for music in the park. The commissioners are partnering with Grey Wolf to do art lessons that are set to launch on May 1st. As Matt mentioned, the arts coordinator for the city, Sarah Hurt, stated that it was the best strategic planning session she's ever been a part of. There was great engagement by the commissioners and a help of the city staff facilitator. Taters, multiple people. I'll put an S in there. Facilitators. And don't worry, I'll send this over to Heather so it's on the record. And then, so at their meeting, they completed their long-range planning at the strat plan, and they have their 2025-2026 calendar ready to go with all their exhibitions and workshops and events. And yeah, they're doing a lot. The commissioners are rocking and rolling. This weekend, as the Irrigation Festival shared with us, is the start of the Irrigation Festival with the Innovative Arts. The Sequim Arts Commission will be volunteering at a community art project booth. And there's going to be 3 fun activities for public participation, a community coloring project. So they took the artwork of the festival and then then like basically cut it up into lots of little sections and then printed each section on a trading card sized piece of paper. And then each individual can take that and color it in. And then they're going to take them back and then put them all together. It's going to be so cool. They're going to do button making and they're also going to do t-shirt upcycling. Yeah, so it's going to be fun. Then there's a new volunteer system for volunteering with City of Sequim. So EJ went through how to use Civic Champs, this new app and website. And it kind of went out of order because then we went back to the innovative arts. The trash and show is 5:30. Guy Cole this Saturday the 3rd. I'll be there. I hope y'all will be there too. The gallery is not doing a First Friday or an art display for the month of May because the police department will be doing a special display in the Karen Kuznick Reese Gallery for the month of May. And the next commission meeting will be the 27th due to Memorial Day. Our meeting will also be on the 27th, the Tuesday, due to Memorial Day that week. Then at the end of the meeting, the Sequim Arts Commissioners reviewed the 21 art pieces that were received for the Over the Rainbow exhibit in June. And that was really hard because I could sit there and look, but I couldn't say anything. No one could say anything. We were all like, and a couple of times people were like, ooh, and they were like, oh, now we have to say it for everybody's art. So no, they had a great time, some amazing pieces overall. And I'm actually really glad that I wasn't voting because that's really hard. So meeting adjourned at 4:26 and that's all I got.
All right, anybody else? All right, well, I didn't write mine down, so I'll try to remember them. Okay, so the Clallam Transit, our general manager is retiring. And so a few of us have like a subcommittee going to, start the process to find a new general manager. All right, so that's Clallam Transit. Chamber of Commerce meetings, I did commit to their monthly meetings, but just a few of them, the day changed. And so I just wanted to let you guys know that I won't be able to make the date changes. I got to double check and see if there's an alternate. I can't remember if there is, but Barb in communications also goes to those for updates. So it's not like the city isn't there entirely. I'm a huge, advocate for making sure somebody from the city is at something so that somebody has information. That's a big thing for me. And then my last updates are from the Sister City Association. So we have a lot of updates. We have been super, super busy. We have a social media, Instagram and Facebook that are up and running with fun updates and learning about the Friendship Garden. We have a website up. And the website includes a from scratch built flora catalog, which is very exciting. I think we only have a few entries left before it's totally completed. We have some activities that will be happening. So the Sister City Association will have a booth at the Irrigation Festival. I think they're booth 151. So somewhere in the middle of the Innovative Arts and Crafts Festival section. And so we'll have some activities, mostly for kids, but adults can come check out the booth and learn about the Sister City as well. And I think that's it from me. Any questions?
All right. It's art activities for those young at heart.
Yes, like me. Okay, on to open discussion. We have our topic of the impacts of federal decision making. If everybody remembers, was it last meeting that Dan brought to our attention the letter from the commissioners, and we decided what we wanted to do with that. So city manager sent us a couple, just a little quick refresher / context. City manager sent a couple drafts of those letters, and so that we can discuss and decide or change or add whatever we want to send. So with that, Does anybody have any opening statements, comments, feedback?
Thank you. Yeah, I would just really appreciate the work that you and staff, Marin, probably put in on this letter. Of the two versions, don't feel strongly, but I kind of like the way it's laid out with the bullet point formatting. Just seems stronger to me, but I'm not sure that that's that important. I think a couple of lower level examples might enhance the impact. So just to put out there in the PDN this last week, there was an article about a local business that's been in business for quite a long time, since the mid-70s here, OSP Sling, that is expressing real concern about their being able to source their raw material for what they do and the service they provide. They employ I don't know, 25 or 30 folks locally here. So there's a local business that is one example, I'm sure, of many that have concerns over their ability to continue to source their materials that they use in their manufacturing. And then because of my involvement at St. Luke's Episcopal, I know that we received a federal grant, won a grant for a bill that was sponsored by former Representative Kilmer for the enhancement of security of places of worship following the attack on the synagogue back in Philadelphia area a year or two ago. And that started a process where there's just funds made available by the federal government, administered by the state of Washington. St. Luke's was successful in receiving that grant to do some upgrades on security at the church, particularly because of the warming center, but other things as well. And now that's been suspended until the state of Washington can be assured that the federal money is going to come through, and the clock is ticking the way the grant is set up. That the funds that have been granted have got to be spent in a limited amount of time, and that clock has started, but the funds are not available to reimburse the church for the work that needs to be done. So those are two very specific examples in addition to the higher level examples that you included. I don't know if others feel like it would be helpful to include that lower level of specificity for our legislators, or if we want to keep it at a little higher altitude. I don't have strong feelings. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dan. I think some low-level specific examples would probably help it hit home a little more. I also agree the bullet points, the list, seems to me it's much more readable than the other format. So
that was also my first assessment when I looked at it, was the bullet points are just easily digestible. It's almost like an elevator talk. I had also written down, I don't know if you're wanting to tailor this to be specifically to just the city as a governmental organization, but as a city, as a community, I'd also written down about the impacts with the grants to things like our food banks, the infrastructure costs and materials, Sequim free clinic, and then for our finance department, you have the cost of service. If we have things that we can't predict or aren't or are widely unstable, then it impacts the customers for things like their utility bills because of that uncertainty. So those are just a couple of the other things I thought about.
I have no objection to adding those bullet points to the letter. So if you haven't already, could you send that to the city manager to add them? And then are there any other changes or additions?
My suggestion was to include, I have not seen the letter, but not sure to where to find it, but it could have been in the email that Heather sent out. Maybe I just clicked on the wrong link, but the addition of the public library, there was some concerns about governmental funding for the public library. And as a student, it's like kind of the only place in Sequim where I get to be for free inside to do work. That's not my house. So that was one thing.
Thank you for bringing that up. That is in the letter. So thank you. Harmony, did you have any?
I just want to jump in on the bullet points bandwagon. That was also my first reaction. But there was I really liked the way it was formatted that way. The narrative also was lovely, but it's just easier with with it being that way. My only thought there with that would be, and this is gonna sound so silly, but what about, smaller margins or, doing something to make it not as many pages? Just looking at that, does it need to have those really pronounced lines? Just like ways to make it smaller so that it doesn't feel as big. That would be my only suggestion. But yes, definitely with that clear delineation. Thank you. And also all the additions that have been stated.
So I think this is great. This is exactly what we needed. What's the next step? So once I drop that in there, who approves what the next generation or iteration?
My goal tonight was to say, as long as we have consensus about those additions, I am open to sending that ASAP.
Okay. Should we pass it by you and the mayor, or
Sure, yeah.
3 of you, or all of you, something like that? I mean, whatever you want.
Whatever's faster. That's really.
Okay. Maybe I'll work with Heather and Christina and figure out how to, make sure we have 4 thumbs up or something like that.
Or like if you emailed all of us and gave us hey, here's the next iteration of the email. We're accepting comments until, for 48 hours, and then we're going to send it or something like that. I don't know. That's just an idea.
True. Ideally, it's like a open meeting process. Yeah, ideally.
Then that makes sense why run it by just you and Brandon, or you guys. I trust you, Rachel. You figure it out.
Yeah, I think it looks good enough now that I would trust just you or Brandon.
Just have us sign it.
And then whoever signs it could sign it on behalf of the city council, since it's been discussed in an open public meeting.
Yeah. And I thank you, Nicole, for getting to where I was going to suggest that council move to. Council has discussed this as the opportunity to have seen this and talk about it in a substantive manner. I would hate for council's time to be taken up with wordsmithing when in reality you all seem to be in agreement on the substance. And so I would recommend that council just consider either a consensus on the record of allowing the city manager to, who is the signatory? Is that okay. So then allowing the deputy mayor or mayor as appropriate to sign on behalf of the entire council. And then that way we have it on the record, and that way council doesn't have to be taking its time up with this matter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. That was my goal. So we could make it a formal motion. I motion that with the additions and changes as discussed, if staff could revise the bullet point draft letter and then put it before mayor or deputy mayor to sign. Good to go.
Perfect.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any posts or changes?
And I think the letter referenced the county one as an attachment. So I
Yes.
trust in you guys have seen that and support that. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, city manager. All right. Close this up. Open council discussion. Anything new and exciting? Nothing. Okay, well, I'll just say I'm very excited for Irrigation Festival. That's it. All right. Agenda planning is Tuesday, May 6th. Do we have any takers? I'll be there. I'll give you a moment to check your schedules. Okay. Yes. This year is going by very quickly. Okay. All right. So it doesn't, I'm not sure. Vicky might be, Brandon might be. It's okay. Cross that bridge when we get to it. Thank you guys. Work session. So there was a small little typo on the agenda. The work session will be Monday, May 12th at 5 p.m. And the regular city council meeting will be Monday, May 12th at 6 p.m. All right. And with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any opposed? All right. Have a great evening.